This video is not from a sci-fi movie or video game. It's called a Ukrainian Dragon drone designed by the 108 Defense Brigade, and it burns through Russian positions even better than a Greek fire trick. Orcs, our eyes are everywhere. Prey. This drone does not drop grenades or explosives, but uses a special mixture called thermite. Numerous videos of its use show that one application can burn 300 feet of enemy territory. The burning temperature of this mixture is 4,500 degrees Fahrenheit. And this is the feedback from the invaders themselves, whose positions were burned by Ukrainian dragons. There's the bikes. They burned down. There's another car standing there that burned down too. And this is just the beginning. What started out as a toy or an auxiliary tool for a videographer has turned into a game-changing weapon in military tactics. So why has such an impressive technology been realized only now? At the beginning of the 20th century, researcher and designer Georgy Bodizad created an aircraft with 4 propellers that did not require a landing pad, and through its propellers was able to change its moving direction easily. However, the public at the time did not appreciate his invention and put the idea in a drawer for 80 years. Quadcopters were recalled in the early 2000s. At that time, the technical capabilities to create unmanned drones appeared, and pioneering companies started developing them. However, their drones didn't look like something you would want to buy. The actual commercial boom in aerial photography with multi-rotor drones began with the Chinese company DJI. In 2013, DJI revolutionized the industry by introducing the Phantom quadcopter, which was ready to fly right out of the box for $700. This made drones accessible to a broader audience. Now, anyone can start flying without technical knowledge, minimizing settings such as compass calibration. Although the first version of the Phantom 1 didn't have a stabilizer for the camera, this didn't prevent aerial photography's massive growth in popularity. The path of this technology in the Russian-Ukrainian conflict dates back to the Revolution of Dignity in Kyiv in 2013 to 2014. This footage was taken by a drone. After the experience of conflicts in the Middle East and Russia's hybrid war in eastern Ukraine, these drones were still rare, but enthusiastic commanders were already using this technology for surveillance and artillery adjustment. The enemy wasn't sitting idly by either, with Russian troops in Donbas actively experimenting with grenade attacks on Russian positions. Back then, such events were covered in the news, although now they're routine. The number of civilian drones at the front gradually grew. Both sides developed and gained the necessary experience, and it was fully utilized during the full-scale war. What is so special about these motorized cameras used mainly by wedding videographers? The answer is simple. These relatively cheap devices enabled soldiers to see and destroy the enemy along the entire front line. It all started with a massive supply of daytime drones by volunteers from Mavic and Autel. These drones successfully found targets and adjusted their destruction using special software. Due to their mass production, cheapness, and ease of use, the number of quadcopters has overcome organic wing-type UAVs several times. We can say that most short-range reconnaissance assets at the front in Ukraine are now quadcopters. Over time, things got even more interesting, as night modules on Mavic 3Ts allowed for observation and detection of the enemy at night, and the Mavic Matrix allowed for even longer stays in the sky, even in bad weather conditions. This has turned the Russian-Ukrainian war into the first war ever to be broadcast in real time, 24/7, completely changing the architecture of combat operations. The culmination of civilian drones' work was the dropping of a variety of munitions fell on the heads of the enemy, destroying equipment and manpower. These drones began to be equipped with dozens of homemade devices for dropping, which were also helpful in transferring water and ammunition to their troops. These homemade devices made hitting the enemy cheaper and more accurate, and they're often made literally from garbage. Here's what one of these craftsmen of the Luhansk Border Guard detachment of the Vengeance Brigade says. The pipe is the most plentiful, cut on a lathe. The explosive is hammered in. An additional fragment is hammered in. A nail detonator is inserted, and off you go with Mavic. The scale has grown even to this. A huge hexacopter or octocopter with mines. Russians call it Baba Yaga. However, this drone deserves a separate video, and in order not to miss it, check your subscription to our channel. The extraordinary developments of Ukraine's partners in the West can be a worthy addition to this arsenal. The United States is ready to provide Ukraine with Felon 1.0 attack drones armed with a 5.56mm machine gun, and Felon X armed with a Spike anti-tank missile. These drones are similar to the Chinese Mavic, but are equipped with much more powerful weapons. The Felon 1.0 suits surveillance, perimeter security, and counter-terrorism operations. At the same time, the Felon X is fitted with the world's most miniature Spike missile, which is an effective Israeli-made anti-tank weapon that competes with the Javelin. In addition, the United States can provide models without weapons but equipped with expensive cameras, such as the modernized FPV drone Cyberlux K8. This drone is designed for filming movies, and although it won't shoot Hollywood movies in Ukraine, it can create real special effects on the battlefield. In the meantime, this model hasn't yet reached the front line. Conventional FPV drones remain one of the most effective means of the Russian-Ukrainian war. This is a different line of quadcopter development originating from the desire to fly model airplanes from a first-person perspective. Texan Carl Berry was one of the first to develop this idea. In the late 1980s, as a former employee of Boeing Aerospace, he combined an airplane model with a camera that transmitted a signal to the screen in real time. But the real FPV boom happened after a video by Dennis VR Flyer Grattan appeared in 2006. Even for modern athletes, this is a pretty good level. So FPV, using drone components and homemade glasses, has been steadily developing as an amateur and then a sport. However, in 2022, the Ukrainian military drew attention to the high military potential of this tool. The first ever successful combat use of FPV took place on June 10, 2022. The Signum unit of the 93rd Separate Mechanized Brigade did it. At the time, this video with the simple title Blue Door appeared on the internet. I fell into it. Yes, I stupidly flew into them. In the door, guys. Look, watch. They are gone. They are running out. Welcome to Ukraine. And after that, the Ukrainian masters were unstoppable. FPV kamikazes with warheads have become commonplace in the Russian-Ukrainian war. This tool is absolutely universal. Stopping an assault of machinery is no problem, destroying an enemy infantry position is easy, and supporting your troops' offensive is a piece of cake. However, the real discovery was their use of them as anti-aircraft guns. Yes, a drone with a pair of goggles for a few $100s has already accomplished several tasks typical of expensive Stinger or similar man-portable air defense systems. Here's the video of Ukrainian fighters' successful hunt in the Kursk region. Look how successfully they shot down an enemy helicopter. To neutralize the bird, which they had to chase first, the operator chose the best place, the steering wheel. Without it, the machine would not be able to complete the mission, and the flight would turn into an unforgettable ride. This, with many other hits that occurred for the first time, now, again and again, makes Ukraine's allies catch up with the creative solutions of the Ukrainian armed forces. In addition, a whole community of students and gamers has formed around FPV. Their skills, which seem of little relevance in war, allowed them to master the rather complicated process of working with FPVs to destroy the enemy non-stop in the shortest possible time. Such flights require developed peripheral vision and a solid vestibular system. The way they navigate with maps is shocking. By maps, by compass, it seems like they are career military. This is how yesterday's gamers turned into war heroes. However, you don't have to be a gamer to become a pilot. For example, there's a medical student named Darwin. Now, Darwin and his drone team personify a dramatic leap in the evolution of warfare, a technological military revolution. However, perhaps the most exciting thing is to watch the FPVs being shot down by enemy strike and reconnaissance UAVs. A small drone with a warhead sneaks up on an enemy UAV. The Russians have already adapted to such actions by the Ukrainian armed forces and have begun to use rear-view cameras to allow them to see approaching FPV. But the pilots of the Ukrainian armed forces choose the right speed and position for the strike. Boom! A hazardous enemy reconnaissance vehicle crashes to the ground. This technology is brand new, and the technical details are kept secret. Still, it looks like this use is just the blossom of what the Ukrainian military is capable of with FPV. All these developments have become necessary due to the limited resources of the Ukrainian armed forces. The proper technologies appeared on the global market just in time, allowing us to quickly orient and use them in combat operations. Thousands of quadcopters are hovering on both sides of the front line and have been doing so for 3 years now, leaving no chance of a quick offensive. It is now up to us to wait until civilian quadcopters give way to drones explicitly designed for war. Toys, wedding drones, sporting equipment, and terrible weapons. Just what a nation that does not want to be destroyed can come up with. If you liked this video, don't forget to give us a thumbs up and subscribe so you don't miss the next one.